Safety features of the DJI Mini SE. The DJI Mini SE is the best beginner drone on the market today. Let's dive deeper, drone fans, into what are some of the safety features of this drone. As usual, we start by opening our DJI Fly app and we tap Go Fly so that we can access the other menus. To access the safety menu, you want to click the three dots located to the upper right corner. So we're now in the safety menu, and the first thing that we have to look at is the return to home function. Now, this is the distance that the aircraft will climb to once the function to return to home has been initiated. So it's kind of like a fail-safe feature that DJI has implemented just to ensure that the drone doesn't crash into any obstacles when it's coming back. And of course, it's now set at 49 feet, but you can always adjust it to much higher than that. The maximum being 229 feet, the minimum being 49 feet. So I think it can just keep it 100. And we can also update the home point by tapping the arrow seen here. If you see this pop up, just click OK, and we'll see that we'll have to enable locations on our app before we can do that. So once you're finished setting the permissions, you'll be brought to this screen where you can see the drone and the home point. Now, if you notice, I can move the H around by just sliding my finger around on the screen, and the H of course stands for home point. I can put it to the side, I can put it behind me. It doesn't matter where I am. I can just move it there. Now you'll see a prompt coming up to that I'll have to be out in an open space. When you're doing this, you want to make sure that there are no trees above you, and there you see me fiddling with the home point, showing you that it can be placed in any direction. Of course, to our upper right, you'll see that we are greeted again with the icon for the drone and the icon for the controller, and we can choose any of these that we want the screen to.
The home point has been updated. Please check it on the map.
There we get the confirmation. Guys, it's looking so beautiful today, I got to say. The sky's looking fantastic. This is a great day to do some shots too. Okay, so that was for updating your home point. Now we're going down to flight protection. Now under this category, you'll see max altitude and max distance. Mine is set at 229 feet. That's for the max altitude. Typically you will not be able to fly beyond, say, 400, a little bit over 400 feet, as local laws, in Jamaica you're not allowed to fly beyond that distance. So I want to be well below that that height. So I'm at 229, and I can take it a little bit lower to, let's say, 98. I don't do a lot of long distance flying, so it's really not necessary. So if you're gonna be having the drone in VLOS, for example, you don't need to have it set to very high, especially if the highest object around you is shorter than this height. Now the max distance is set to no limit, and according to this, it says that this thing maxes out at 1600, 4000.
What?
16,400 feet. All right, that maxes out at, and we can always leave that there, or if we want to control the distance, we can bring it all the way down to 65 feet. And once it gets there, so let's say for example I take it to 65 feet, and if I try to go beyond that, and I'm gonna give it a try just to see what happens. So I'm going, guys, to see if I can go beyond 65 feet. I've set it.
Maximum flight distance reached.
It's acting really weird. So I'm pushing all the way forward on my right joystick, guys, and it's not budging at all. So this thing is perfect if it is that you want to control the distance that you're flying. Okay guys, we're down in the sensor section, and under that we have compass, normal, and IMU. Now it is recommended that you calibrate your compass if it is that you are flying miles away from the last launch point that you had, or if it is that you had the drone put down for a couple of months, or if you're prompted in the pre-flight check to do this calibration. Remember, drone fans, the compass connects to satellites outer space to position the drone accurately on the earth. So it is very important that we calibrate the compass if necessary. Otherwise, the drone might end up choosing a very old home point and flying past you to get to somewhere else when you asked it to return to home. Okay guys, so the instruction says keep clear of metal objects with an electrical charge and ensure that the distance between the aircraft from the ground is 1.5 meter. You want to be away from obstructions because it causes interference as it's calibrating. Just pick up the drone now and turn it anti-clockwise while holding it in a horizontal plane. So follow on screen the way I do it here. And we're making a 360-degree turn. Okay, that's complete. Now we move to the next step. Have the craft pointing upwards to the ceiling, and we're going to turn the craft anti-clockwise for 360 degrees, just like what I do on screen here. And once we're done, we can set it down and we'll be prompted on screen that the task is complete. And that's how easy it is to calibrate your compass. Now we're on to the IMU. The IMU stands for the Inertial Measurement Unit. This device keeps the craft balanced while it's pitching and rolling. You want to ensure that this is calibrated if you're prompted to do so in the pre-flight, or if it is that you see your drone flying a certain way, as in, out of the ordinary. Sometimes it just needs a good old IMU calibration and it's back to good as new. Let us begin calibrating our IMU. Place your craft on a level surface, just like what we see in the video here. Next step, we place the craft on its side facing left. Please make sure that you get the orientation correct. Now we place the craft on its back with the head facing right. Make sure again it's on a level surface, and we're just getting that done. And there we go. Now we're going to put the craft on its side facing right. Take your time, guys. It can be a bit confusing, but you'll get used to it. One more step to go. And now we put the craft facing upwards. And we're 98% complete. It's a 5-step process, and this is step 5. And once that is done, you'll be prompted on screen that the process is complete and the drone will restart. For this reason, please ensure that your gimbal guard is off while you're doing this. So we're putting the drone back to its initial position, and you should see calibration successful on the screen. Okay guys, it's all about the battery now. And a part of flying safe means ensuring that we know the status of our battery before, after, and during we launch. Okay, I'm just going to click the arrow now. Guys, we're now in the battery section, and if we take a look at the top here, we realize that these cells are colored green. And both of these cells are giving off reasonably the same amount of charge. So this is two of things that you want to pay close attention to: the color of the cells and the charge that they're giving off. So if your cells are in bad shape, that is, if they're going bad, it will show either of two colors, orange or red. Orange means it's going bad, and red means it needs to be replaced. Guys, do not ignore these warnings, because you do not want your craft to be way up in the air and then the battery fails and then it comes crashing to earth. You know how that's going to end. So it's always important to make sure that your batteries are healthy. Now, a good rule of thumb also is never to charge your battery while it's hot, and also you want to ensure that the battery cools down, in a cool space. You store it in a cool space, and you make sure that when you're storing your batteries, if you're not going to be flying for a while, you keep it at 65% or 60%, and that way the cells will stay nice and healthy. Do not keep it at 100% for a long time. Do not keep it at a low charge for a long time. That's just how lithium ion polymer batteries are, and that's how we care for them, guys. Okay guys, now we're moving over to the next section where we see battery voltage, and that shows the combined voltage of both batteries. And we also have the temperature at the top there. We also have the battery SN number and the battery cycle count. This is how many times I've charged it, and you can see that's 29. Alright, now we move next to unlocking geozones. You would need to unlock a geozone if it is that you are trying to launch in an area where there are restrictions. DJI allows you to unlock zones depending on where you are, and it also means that you will have to fly responsibly. Now, normally when you're trying to unlock a zone, there is a disclaimer that you have to agree to before you are granted permission to fly in that zone. However, I'm just going to ask guys that as much as possible we fly responsibly, and that we don't make it a problem for the other hobbyists out there who are trying to fly it the right way. Okay, up next is the Find My Drone feature. We can access that feature by tapping the arrow to the right, and this feature allows us to find our drone if it goes missing. We have two options: we can use other maps, or we can start flashing and beeping. Now you'll notice the two options below, black and white. And I'm just going to demonstrate in a very short while what the drone looks like when we hit the start flashing and beeping option. But first, let's try out the use other maps. We have Google Maps there, and to use this function you'll have to have your location turned on as well as permissions granted in the app. This will give you the last known location where the drone was active. When you're close enough, you can activate the beep feature and you should be able to hear that drone nearby. That's it for this feature. Let's go back to the main menu. Now we're going to hit the advanced safety settings, and in this settings we choose what happens when the craft disconnects from our controller. Now we can return to home, we can have it return to home from where we launch, we can have it descend, that is to go down to the ground, or we can have it hover in place. If you're on a lake or on a river or somewhere where it's treacherous and you don't want it coming down and you don't trust it coming back, you can choose hover and it will just stay there and regain connection to your craft. Now emergency prop stop, and you'll see emergency, the two ways in which you can disable the motors. You can push both joysticks in or both joysticks out, and you do this simultaneously. If we click on the emergency button, we'll be given the option to choose to activate this function anytime, use with caution, and you'll see that in bracket, or emergency only. I prefer to keep it at emergency only because sometimes you don't want to be flying and then you accidentally hit that combination with your joysticks and you end up with a disaster. So it's best to leave it at emergency only. And that's how you emergency stop your propellers. Scrolling down, we have payload mode. And this mode is when we use in a setting where there's not a lot of wind blowing, or if it is that it's calm and we're looking to lift something. So there are attachments that will come for these drones that will allow you to lift things and move them around. And if you're doing so, you'll activate this mode. So that's all there is for now. And if you are curious about more features about this drone, I encourage you to check out my channel. There are tons of video guys about the DJI Mini SE. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Until then, it's Jam Dung Drones, over and out.